This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Welcome to the tremendous crowd we have here today in Young Israel of Kew Garden Hills and around the world. Parshas Beha'aloscha. So Parshas Beha'aloscha begins with the mitzvah of hadlakas hamenorah. And the pasuk says, Daber el Aharon, speak to Aaron. So this would indicate that this mitzvah somehow is connected to Kohanim. V'amarta elav, say to him, Beha'aloscha haneros, when you bring up the lights, al mopnei hamenorah, ya'iru shivas haneros. When you light the menorah, when you bring up the candles opposite the face of menorah, ya'iru shivas haneros, the 7 lights should burn. Now, I think if you'd ask most people, what is the mitzvah of hadlakas hamenorah and how often is it? I think most people would say that the mitzvah of lighting the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash was every evening. The kohen, or we'll see, could a non-kohen light the menorah? The kohen would light the menorah, and how much oil would he put in? How long would it have to last? I think most people would say it lasted through the night. And then what would he do in the morning? Maybe he would clean it out and then light it again the next evening. And that, in fact, is the opinion of most Rishonim. However, the Rambam has a very unique take on the mitzvah of hadlakas hamenorah. And the Rambam's opinion is, Mahu dishon hamenorah, what is the removal of the ash of the menorah? Kol ner shekava, says the Rambam in Hilchos Tmidim Umusafim, Para Gimel, Halacha Yud Beis, any light that extinguished, Meisar Hapsila, you remove the wick, V'chal Hashem and Shabaner, and you remove all the oil, Umekancha, you wipe it out, V'noisim B'y Psila Acheres, you put in another wick, V'shemen Acher, and more oil, B'mida, by the same measurement, Shuchatzi Lug, which is a half a lug for each container, V'zeh Sheheser, and whatever you remove, mashlicha b'makom hadesh, and you put in the place of the ash, eitzel hamizbeach, next to the altar, im dishon hamzech, with the ashes that have been removed from the altar, hapnimi, the inner altar, v'hachitzon, says the Rambam, umadlik ner shekava, and any lamp that extinguished, you relight. Now, how much oil did you put in? A half a lug. How long does a half a lug last? Throughout the night. So presumably when you come in the morning, it's not going to be lit. So you would assume most of the candles, not all of them, went out. According to the Rambam, there is a mitzvah to relight all the neiros in the morning. Umadlik ner shekava. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that the kohen lights the menorah in the morning. All it says, we'll see in Parshas Tetzaveh, is look at number 4. V'hikter alav Aaron k'torah samim. In Parshas Tetzaveh, talks about the haktaras k'toras. Aaron will be makter k'toras. Ba'boiker, every morning. Beheitivayas haneros yaktirena. When he cleans out the neros, he should burn the k'toras. So the only reference we have to an avodah of the menorah in the morning is being meitiv the neros. We don't have any reference to lighting the menorah. Says the Rambam, hadlakas haneros hi hatavasam. Hatavas hamenorah is lighting the menorah. It's not cleaning the menorah. Or at least it also includes lighting the menorah. V'ner shematza shaloi kava. If you found a candle that did not go out, misakna, you just fix it up. He doesn't say that. Unclear. Right. But the Rambam seems to be saying a tremendous chadash. That there's a mitzvah of hadlakas ner hamenorah not only in the evening but in the morning as well. The pasuk says beheitivai. The Rambam seems to say hadlakas haneros hi hatavasam. Lighting is the hatava. So the Kesef Mishnah on the Rambam points out that not everybody agrees to this shita of the Rambam that you light the menorah in the morning.
What is the translation of the word hatava?
Literally, to clean it. It means to clean, to make it good, but it refers to cleaning. That's how everybody grips the pasuk. Look at number 3. The Kesef Mishnah says, "V'hadlakas ha'neiros hi hatavasan zehu das Rabbeinu." This is the opinion of the Rambam. Shehu soiver shegam ba'boiker madlak ha'neiros. He holds that you light in the morning as well. The incisive, because when it says in Tetzaveh v'hikter alav Aaron k'torah samim ba'boiker v'heitivoyas ha'neiros, perush Behativai, behadlikai. The Rambam interprets the word behativai means behadlikai. So that's a very amazing opinion of the Rambam. V'hachreinim cholkim alav. But all the later authorities argue on the Rambam. V'oimrim, and they say, she'ein hadlakas haneros ela beinor abayim, that you only light the menorah in the evening. Uperish behativai. And when the Torah says, behativai baboiker, eina hadlaka, it's not lighting it, ela tikkun apsilos. It's just fixing it. The Chalzet, Timtza, B'tshuvais, Harashba, Siman, Shin, Tes. All of this you will find in the Tshuvas of the Rashba. Not like the Rambam, that you do not light the menorah in the morning. And the Kesef Mishnah goes on to explain that in his opinion, Rashi and the Ravid and Onkelos all disagree with the Rambam. And everybody holds you only light the menorah in the evening like we always assumed. So that's the unique shita of the Rambam. And we're now going to learn the Tshuvas Harashba, who extensively argues on the Rambam. I'll just, let's skip to number 6 for a moment. The Bar Tanura in Masechta Tamid quotes the Rambam that the Kohen would light the menorah not only in the evening, but in the morning as well. And the Bar Tanura says, V'divei Rambam mishazu tmu'ah ma'od. The opinion of the Rambam is very wondrous. And that which the Rambam learns, that being mative, the neros is lighting it. That you would light all the candles of menorah in the morning like you would do in the evening. It is a wondrous question in my eyes. I never heard anyone who says something like this. In other words, where in the world did the Rambam get this from? That not only do you light the menorah in the evening, but you light the menorah in the morning as well. Never heard anything like this. Nobody agrees to such an explanation. Nobody... Okay. So let's see the Tshuvas Harashba. The Rashba formally quotes the Rambam and disagrees with the Rambam. The Rashba was asked, Bararli inyan hatavas hamenor v'adlakas haneros.
How long after the Rambam did the Rashba live?
Not so long. The Rashba was a student of the Ramban. The Ramban was not so after the Rambam. I would say about 100 years. Okay, so the Rashba says, Ela shani makdim l'sader l'fanecha inyan ha'hatava v'hala kula kfi ma shani soiver. Let me advance an introduction about when the hatavas haneros were and when the lighting of the neros were. Ani savor sheha'ala hi hahadlaka. In my opinion, ha'ala is lighting, like we say beha'aloscha es haneros. A lashon of ha'ala means to light, but v'ha'atava ina hadlaka. Hatava is not lighting. Ella dishon Hashem, and removing the oil. V'hapsila and the wicks, b'shematzan shekavu, if he found that they were extinguished, unasinas hashemen, kamidasa upsila chadasha, and putting the oil as its measurement. V'zeh shaloi kedivrei harambam. This is not like the Rambam who writes, hadlakas haneros is the hatava. Now says the Rashba, if you look in the Gemara Menachos, the Gemara Menachos says that Abaye said, it's logical, like the one who says, like the opinion that says, by the Ketara Samim of the evening. Rabbi says it's Mistaber, like the one who says, by the Ketara Samim of the Ben Rabbayim, Dichsiv, Baboiker, Beheitiva, Yashaneros, Yaktireno. Now, V'lav the Avet Hadlaka, Me'orta, if you didn't light the Menorah in the evening, Hatava, B'tsafra, Me'hecha. What cleaning is there to do in the morning? So what do we see from there? That hatava and hadlaka are two different things. They're not the same thing. And in Parak Shtei Midos, it says mativa and then madlika. So we see it's two different things. And this is the order. Now we're going to see even the Rashba would say that sometimes you do relight it in the morning. And we'll see when that is. We'll see the Rashba's opinion will be that if the Ner Ma'aravi goes out, you light the Ner Ma'aravi, because it says Tamid by the Ner Ma'aravi. So the Ner Now there was a miracle that the Ner Ma'aravi would often and usually not extinguish. It was a miracle. But ein soimchen ala nes, because from the time of Shimon HaTzadik, the Ner Ma'aravi began to go out. And we don't rely on miracles, so therefore we'll see that the Ner Ma'aravi, they did not put any more oil in Ner Ma'aravi than any other lamp. And miraculously, it lit longer than the other Neiros. But if it did go out before the end of the day, they would relight it. But only the Ner Ma'aravi. And then we're going to see there were other lamps as well, that even the Raj would agree they would relamp, the two eastern ones. But as a general rule, to say like the Rambam, that any lamp that went out, they relit, and that there's a hadlaka in the morning as well as the evening, then that would not be correct. Now,
Does the Torah refer anywhere to the lighting of the Neiros and Menorah as actual hadlaka?
no.
We don't find that word anywhere. Strange.
Okay. Now, here's the order. V'chein hu sidron shel dvarim. Ba'erev ma'alen shiva haneros. And the evening they would light 7 lamps. Like it says, Beha'aloscha arnas haneros bein harabayim. V'nois mehem shemen b'cholecha be'echad chatzi lug. They would put a half a lug in each lamp. Kishiuroi lidloik. How long would a half a lug last? Till the morning, Ne'er Boiker. But now, even on the longest nights of Teves, the Laila Haggadah Shabbateves, Ukedetnam bePerak Shtei Midos, Gimel Umechza leMenorah, Chatzi Lug l'Chol Echad ve'Echad, 3.5 for the Menorah, a half a lug for each one. Va'amrinan Allah b'Gemara, and we said in the Gemara, Mina Hani Mili, the Tan Rabban, Meir Avad Boiker, Tein La Midasa, Shetei Delekas Avad Boiker. Put in oil that should last till the morning. Umikan Anu Lameidin. From here we see Gamkein. If you only put in oil to last till the morning, then if it goes out, you don't have to relight it. Right? Matzon Shekava in Zakaglen, Ladlikan Ad HaErev. She'ilu Kain, because if it was so, if you needed to relight it, then why would you not put in oil to last you until the next day? In other words, if the halacha was that you're supposed to, that it's very important that it not go out and you have to relight it if it goes out, then you should put in enough oil to last you to the next day. It must be. We only need it to last till the morning. Uvener ma'aravi bilvad hu shekbida tarlias dagva tamid. Only the ner ma'aravi is it important that it's always lit. T'chsev l'fnei Hashem tamid. Oisay shel l'fnei Hashem yeh tamid. Like it says in the Sifri. L'fnei Hashem tamid. Sheyhei ner ma'aravi tadir. Shemimenu ma'adlik esam ner ben arbaim. In other words, from which ner would they light the menorah in the evening? From the ner ma'aravi. But even so, they would not put more oil in the ner ma'aravi, even though they needed it to light from it in the next evening, like it says in Menachos. It says, "Michutz l'parechas ha'edos, edos hu l'chol b'ay olam sheshchina b'Yisrael." The ner ma'aravi was testimony that the Shechina resides in Klal Yisrael. Mahu edus. So what was the testimony? Rava said this was the ner ma'aravi that you put in oil like everything else, and you would light with it, and you would end with it.
Where does the Rashba say
Heitivu baboker is they would, whatever ashes were in the receptacles, they would clean out, they would wipe it out, they would remove the excess oil. They would not relight anything that went out.
Preparing it so that at night they would.
Right, and that it should look nice in the. Well, that's what the word behetiva means. That's the simple interpretation. Right, you want people to see it. It should look nice. It shouldn't look, you look at your menorah in the morning, it doesn't look well. Okay. If you found, even according to the Rashba, that the ner ma'aravi was extinguished, you would clean it out and light it. For the ner ma'aravi, you need lefnei Hashem. We're discussing now a very interesting subject, and that is the opinion of the Rambam is that when they would light the menorah, not only would they light it in the evening, but if in the morning they found it went out, the opinion of the Rambam is they would relight it in the morning as well. And we said most achronim disagree. I need another battery. Most achronim disagree. And let's check out the right field arm. Okay. disagree, and most Achronim say no, they would not relight the menorah in the morning. They would just clean it out in the morning. When the Torah says behetivai, it means to clean it out. They would only clean out one particular receptacle, and that is the ner maravi. Okay, fine. Avoshar imatzan dolkon manichum come out of erev. The rest, if they were burning, they would leave it. V'matzam shakavo, they would clean it out, and they would put oil for the evening rain. In other words, in the morning they're ready to prepare it. That's the hatava. V'zeu hatavason shekasa b'hem ba'boiker behetiva seneros. Aval imatza shnei hamizrachim shekavu. If the two eastern lamps went out, im yesham ner echad, if one of them is burning, doilek.
Just said the two of them were out.
So
maybe one of the other ones that are left that are not considered.
Right, if one of the other ones are burning, madlikin min hadalkin, you would light the two eastern ones from one of the other ones. Why?
Are you allowed to have Hanukkah from the lights of Menorah by lighting them?
No.
By lighting?
No, you're not having Hanukkah. It's not called Hanukkah. You're doing it for the avodah itself. Why the two eastern ones? Kedetanan, medashnan, umadlikin min hadolkim. You light it from the ones that are burning. V'yamlav madlikim mimizbeach ha'olah. Ukedetanan, medashnan, umadlikim mimizbeach ha'olah. And this is not like the Rambam. Because in the Rambam's opinion, I believe the Rambam's opinion is you always light it from the Mizbeach. Okay. So let's see a little bit. Let's see a little further. The Rashba continues. V'tanya b'sifri, in the beginning of Beha'aloscha, Ya'iru shivas haneros, Shaime'ani sheyu dolkim la'olam. If it says Ya'iru shivas haneros, I would think they have to be lit always. So it says no, it doesn't have to be lit always. It says Me'er avad boiker. Well, if it says Me'er avad boiker, maybe you should put it out in the morning. I Me'er avad boiker achol yechabam. Tamaloi mer Ya'iru. Ha-ketzad. Ya'iru shivas haneros Me'er avad boiker. Lifnei Hashem tamid. That's the ner maravi. So it says the Raja, this is openly against the Rambam. Because the Medrash says they should be lit, but you can't put them out. However, they do not have to always be burning. The only ner that always has to be burning, this Sifri says, is ner maravi. So this is black and white against the Rambam. The Sifri says befeirosh, the only light that has to be constantly burning is a ner maravi. So where did the Rambam get it from? Venera Li, says the Rashba, Shasamach le harav. The Rambam is relying on what it says in Menachos. Listen to this. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, ner shekavsa, nidashen hashemen, you remove the oil. Nidashna hapsila, you remove the wick. Keitzad oisa, mativa, you clean it. V'noisim hashemen, umadlika. So the Gemara Menachos says on Peches, you relight it. V'dmar nami, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, v'amrila, Amar Rav Chanina, Amar Rabbi, ner shekavsa, nidashen hashemen, nidashna hapsila, keitzad oisa, mativa, v'noisim hashemen, umadlika. So you see openly like the Rambam now. That what? The alma b'shosh metiva madlika v'loy madlika b'shas hala bein arbaim kamar. So the question is alma b'shosh metiva madlika. And it says v'loy madlika b'shas hala. It doesn't mean you light it at the time of Bein Arbaim. It's not mashma. And also it says Yasiv Rab Zrika v'kami bay like Shunoisim Hashem Kunas V'Shem Kunas Shechasra. And the fact that it says Ner Shekav Sastam, that's mashma. Whatever light goes out, you have to relight it. Not only the Ner Maravi or the two eastern ones. And the Raja says, no, my opinion is that it's referring to the Ner Maravi or the two eastern ones. But the bottom line is, so we have this machlokes rishonim that most rishonim say you would only light the menorah in the evening, and if it goes out in the morning, you just clean it out. That's the simple meaning of Beha'aloscha. The Rajva would concede the Ner Ma'aravi does need to be relit, and the two Eastern ones need to be relit as well. The opinion of the Rambam is just like there's a mitzvah to light the menorah in the evening, there's a mitzvah to light the menorah in the morning as well. And the question we said we have to address is the Bar Tanura's question. So where did the Rambam get this from? What is the source of the Rambam? So let's look in the first Rashi in this week's Parsha. Look at number 7. The Rashi says, the beginning of Beha'aloscha is juxtaposed to the end of Nasai. What does the end of Nasai talk about? The end of Nasai talks about the inauguration of the Mizbeach. And immediately after the inauguration of the Mizbeach, Bayom Arishayin, Hikrovas Karbanoi, Nachshon ben Aminadav, Lamata Yehuda, and then Beha'aloscha Haneros. What does the menorah have to do with the inauguration of the Mizbeach? So Chazal tell us, when Aaron HaKohen saw the Mizbeach being inaugurated, he felt very bad because his shevet did not participate in the inauguration of the Mizbeach. So Hashem said, don't worry, yours is greater than theirs. But look at Rashi. Lama nismacha parshas ha-menorah leparshas ha-nesiyim lefi shekshara Aaron Chanukah ha-nesiyim chol sha'az daita. Aaron felt bad. Shlo ha'yimam b'Chanukah, that he didn't participate. Lo hu v'lo shifta, not him and not his shevet. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu chayecha shalcha gedola mishalahem. Yours is greater than theirs. Sha'ata madlik u'meitiv es haneros. You are lighting and cleaning the neros. If you look at how the Ramban quotes over Rashi, Sha'ata madlik u'meitiv es haneros boiker va'erev. You light and clean the neros in the morning and the evening.
Not to be cleaning in the morning, lighting in the evening.
That implies that not only was there hadlaka in the evening, but there's hadlaka in the morning as well. Because why would he say madlik and meitiv, boiker, if anything is going on madlik? The lashon of the Ramban, which by the way we don't have in any versions of Rashi, that Rashi says madlik umeitiv boiker va'erev. But the way the Ramban quotes over Rashi is saying madlik umeitiv boiker va'erev. That we found a friend for the Rambam. This version of how the Ramban quotes Rashi. Now, just a thought. We know on Hanukkah, we light the menorah in the evening. But not everywhere. In some places, we light in the morning. Where do we light the menorah in the morning also? In Shul. Why are you lighting the menorah in the morning? Well, according to the Rajva, that they lit the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash only at night, why in a Shul would you light the menorah in the morning? That would seem to be based on the opinion of the Rambam. Then the Beis Hamikdash, not only did they light the menorah in the evening, they lit the menorah in the morning as well. And the Shul, which is a microcosm of the Beis Hamikdash, that would seem to be following the opinion of the Rambam. But again, where did the Rambam get this from? There's a very interesting tshuva in Shalos Tshuvas Or HaMeir. Who wrote Shalos Tshuvas Or HaMeir? None other than the Lubliner Rav, Rabbi Meir Shapiro, the founder of the Daf Yomi. And he discusses a very interesting subject. Mysteriously, there are many statements of the Rambam that we're not able to find sources for. For example, it says, Kol HaKoyes, anyone who gets angry, Ki'ilu, Oived Avodah Zarah. Someone who gets angry, it's like he served idols. By the way, where does it say that? Pirkei Avos, Avos Rav Nasan, Gemara, Shas. The answer is it says it nowhere. It doesn't exist. There's no such statement. Only the Rambam says it. It doesn't say that in Shas. In Shas, all it says is, Kol HaKoyes, it says, Kal ha-meshaber kelim b'chamasai, someone who breaks vessels in his anger, yeh be'einecha, it should be in your eyes, kilu oived avodah zarah. But there the Gemara is saying, if you break kelim in your anger, or if you tear a garment in your anger, it should be in your eyes as if you served idols. But it doesn't say anybody who gets angry, it should be like you served idols. So where'd the Rambam get it from? So there is an idea, it's found in many, many sources, that certain things the Rambam says the only makar we have for it is the Zohar HaKadosh, which is very difficult because the Rambam did not have the Zohar. None of the Rishonim had the Zohar. The Zohar was discovered after the times of the Rishonim.
Zohar had Rambam.
The Zohar certainly did not have the Rambam. But there are many, for example, the Zohar says, Kol HaKoyes Kilu Oved Avodah Zarah. But the Zohar also talks about the issue of the Menorah, and amazingly, says Rabbi Meir Shapiro, the Zohar says exactly like the Rambam, that the word Hatavas Haneros refers to lighting the Menorah. So we found a friend for the Rambam. Take a look in the Zohar, number 10, in this week's Parsha. The Zohar says, on the fourth line, Uksiv uvahalois aroin es hanerois bein harabayim yaktirena, ma'ishna hacha dehativai, u'ma'ishna hasam uvahalois, Rabbi Yehuda, kula chad mila. Hatava and hala are the exact same word. So that when the Torah says, in number 4, v'hikter alav aron ketayra samim, ba'boiker, Beheitivai esaneros. Beheitivai means behadlaka. And in fact, Rabbi Meir Shapiro says, look in number 9 in the Ois Daled. Behilchais. Let's see if you know this acronym. Taf, Vav, Mem, Vav, Samach. Whoever gets that gets a huge prize. Oh well, behilchais tmidim umusafim, kasav Rambam, bahadlakas haneros he hatavasam, lying the menorah hatava, and the Rashba asks on him, and the Ravid argues on him, and Rashi and Tosis are not like it. Uve emes yesh makar bezayar hakadosh bamidbar. That what hatava and hala, it's all the same thing. It's very interesting. The Rambam has a friend in the Zohar. That when the Torah says "Beheitivos haneros," "Ba'boiker," "Ba'boiker," "Beheitivos haneros," it refers to halakha. Interesting, Rabbi Isai. The Arachaim HaKadosh quotes a Chazal. He quotes the way the Ramban quotes Rashi. Now look at number 11. Va'oimram madlik umeitiv erev u'boiker v'lo matzinu hadlak ela ba'erev. Arachaim HaKadosh says, how could there be a chazal that you light the menorah morning and evening? You only light it at night. You know, it doesn't even dawn on the Arachaim HaKadosh to say, like the Zohar, to say like the Rambam, that there's another mitzvah hadlak in the morning. He doesn't even suggest such a thing. He says it's referring to the Ner Maravi. Okay. So now we're going to use the Rambam to answer a few interesting questions. We already said that the Shita of the Rambam would explain our minhag of lighting the menorah in a shul during the day on Hanukkah. Otherwise, according to the Rashba, it doesn't make any sense why we light the menorah in the shul during the day. Okay. There's a Mishnah in Yuma. The Mishnah in Yuma is talking about the 7 days that the Kohen Gadol was preparing to do the Avodah on Yom Kippurim. And the Mishnah says, for the 7 days, he brings the carbon tamid, and he is meitiv the menorah. So the Sfas Emes asks, why does the Mishnah only say he's meitiv the menorah? It should say better. It should say the Kohen Gadol is madlik the menorah. Says the Sfas Emes, according to the Rambam, it's beautiful. Because the Rambam learns the word meitiv is ladlik. So the Mishnah is saying, is hitting it on the head. The Mishnah is saying the Kohen Gadol would be meitiv the neiros, meaning he would be madlik the neiros during those 7 days, as opposed to the rest of the year that any Kohen could do it. Okay. Let's talk about another issue. Let's talk about the Yevanim. Let's talk about Hanukkah. Of course, you know, Chodesh Sivan. That's the subject on everyone's mind. Hanukkah. Or you rather think about Tisha B'Av, we'll think about Hanukkah. The Rambam says that what day did we rest from our enemies? Chafei, Chanu Chafei, Hanukkah, Chanu Chafei. They rested from their enemies on the 25th day of Kislev. So there's a big question on the Rambam. If they rested from their enemies on the 25th day of Kislev, that means that on the 25th day of Kislev, they couldn't light the menorah yet because they didn't begin to rest until the 25th. That means the first time they could have lit the menorah is 26th. So if the first time they lit the menorah, if they rested on the 25th, and the first time they lit the menorah is the night of the 26th, then why in the world do we light the menorah the night of the 25th? The Meiri argues on the Rambam, and the Meiri says they did not rest on the 25th, they rested on the 24th. And that's why we light the menorah on the 25th, because the first time they lit the menorah is the 25th. But according to the Rambam, the question is, why do we light the menorah on the 25th, but they didn't light it until the 26th? So Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank in the Menorah Kodesh quotes the Perush of the Ar Gadol. I think the Ar Gadol is the Minsker Eloi, who says an amazing thing. According to the Rambam, they rested on the 25th. You're right, they didn't light the menorah the night of the 25th, but they definitely lit it the day of the 25th. So therefore, our hadlakas menorah of the night, at home anyway, we only light it at night. Why? Because there's only Persumei Nisa at night when people are home. And sure, we can light it during the day, but at home we only light it at night. Why do we light it on the 25th? Because according to the Rambam, they lit the menorah during the day. So they lit the menorah on the day, they lit it on the 25th. So we start lighting the menorah on the 25th. The Rambam is l'shitase, and the Meiri is l'shitase. The Rambam, who says there's a mitzvah to light the menorah during the day, he could learn that they rested during the day. So why do we light on the 25th? Because even though they didn't light at night, they lit during the day. But the Meiri shita is that you only light the menorah at night. So you only light the menorah at night, then why do we start lighting the menorah the 25th? Because the Meiri holds, that's why the Meiri is forced to say they didn't rest on the 25th, they rested on the 24th. And they Taka did light the menorah for the first time the night of the 25th. So the Rambam is going according to his shita, and the Meiri is going according to his shita. The Rambam holds there's a mitzvah to light the menorah during the day, and therefore it's okay to say that they rested on Hanukkah on the 25th. Why do we light the menorah on the 25th? To commemorate the first time they lit the menorah, which is the day of the 25th. The Meiri, on the other hand, now the Ar Gadol says maybe the Meiri holds like the Rashba, but actually if you look up the Meiri Taka says he does hold like the Rashba. The Meiri says there's only Hadlakas HaMenorah in the evening. If that's the case, he's forced to say they rested on the 24th. Because if they rested on the 25th, why in the world are we lighting the menorah on the 25th if they didn't start lighting until the 26th? So look at number 13. Look at number 13. Ayin Or Gadol, on what it says in Yuma, that the Rambam says that they rested on the 25th. That's l'shitase. He says halakas hamenorah is b'yayim, like the Rajba's Marach in Tshuva. So it comes out good. And on the 25th, when they found the jug, they lit it in the morning, and it lit 8 days. And the Rambam is l'shitase. The Meiri, on the other hand, who says that they rest on 24th, he holds like the Rashba, that there was no hadlaka during the day, only at night, and therefore he's forced to say that the Nitzachon was on the 24th. And says Reb Tzvi Pesach Frank, the Ar Gadol says this as an efsher, but if you look in the Meiri, he mentions the shita of the Rambam. Okay, Rabbi, so one more offering, and then I'll let you break. And obviously, if you're talking about Hanukkah, what question do we need to answer? The Beis Yosef's kasha. Why do we celebrate 8 days of Hanukkah? But the first day wasn't a miracle. They had enough oil to light for the first day. Let me just throw out 2 more questions. Why did Hashem have to make a miracle? Tumah is hutra b'tzibur. Famous question. That when the majority of Klal Yisrael is tameh, you're allowed to do the avodah b'tumah. So why didn't they use tameh oil? Question number 3. Why are we so hooked up with the menorah? There's somebody called the Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol had to bring a mincha every day. The mincha needed shemen. What oil do they use for the shemen of the Kohen Gadol? You're going to say they found, well, you'll say that shemen doesn't have to be kassis. So that shemen they had, it's not mistaber, they had one kind of oil, not another kind of oil. They defiled everything. So question number 1 is, there was no miracle on the first day. Question number 2 is, what did they do for the minchas chavitin? And question number 3 is, Tuma is hutra b'tzibor. So the Cheshek Shloimeh, Reb Shloimeh HaKohen in Vilna, says a very interesting teretz. He says, according to the Shita of the Rambam, not only do you have to light the menorah during the evening, you would have to light it during the day as well. However, that mitzvah of lighting during the day is not kavua. Why is it not kavua? Because it might still be burning in the morning. It's only if you found that it went out. It could be, the wind was not strong that night, and the oxygen level was not, and it's still lighting. It's still lit. So it's not a mitzvah kavua. The halacha that tumah is hutra b'tzibor is when the tzibur is tummy, they're allowed to do any avoida, which is keva. But a malacha, which is not keva, you can't do b'tumah. Memela like this. You want to know what they did for the minchas chavitin? Minchas chavitin had to be brought every single day, machtzisa b'boik, machtzisa b'erev, and they used tamei oil, because tamei hutra b'tzibor. You want to know why did Hashem make a miracle, but tamei hutra b'tzibor? You're right, he didn't have to for the lighting of the night. He didn't have to. The night you could light b'tumah. And they did light b'tumah. But the day lighting, you're not allowed to do b'tumah, because the day lighting is not keva. Now, so you'll ask, but they had enough oil to light for one day? No. When Chazal said they had enough for one day, that meant for the first night, but they didn't have enough for the next 12-hour period. So the miracle was that the oil that they used that night, which was enough only for the nighttime and not for the day, it continued to burn during the day. So you'll ask, we didn't need a miracle because we could use tamei oil? No, you can't use tamei oil for the day lighting. You can only use tamei oil for the night lighting. Because the night lighting is set. The day lighting is not set. That's how, based on the Rambam, Rav Shloimeh HaKohen Mivilna, they did. They did. Why didn't they use tamei oil for night?
Saved for the daytime, the tar oil for the daytime, because that was not keva.
They still wouldn't have had enough for a day.
No, I understand, but then the question still remains about the 7 days, because then they had the oil. Answer the question.
I mean, they had enough tahar oil, it sounds like, for one 12-hour period. Why did they use that during the night, you mean? They should have saved it for the first day. It sounds like it's still better to use tahar, so they used it in the night, and it lasted during the day, and that's what they did. Let's take a look at the inside, and then we'll break. Okay. Hakushim Meforsam, it's number 14. Dim Kain B'Yom Rishon, La Yoyanes Klal. If they had enough oil for the first night, it was not a miracle. Like the Beis Yosef asks, Oshar Mefarshim, Far Nemra al Zeh Kama Terutzim. There are many Terutzim. B'divrei Hagoynim b'Sefreim. V'ene Gam Anochi Eschalki b'Zeh. And I will offer my teretz b'hektem oid ma shehikshu ha-mefarshim d'lama hotzruch l'nei zeh. Why do you need this miracle? D'hadlakas haneras doichet tumah. Another question. Lighting the menorah is doichet tumah. K'may shar karbonos tum k'disa l'hedi b'taras kayanim. Yareches haneras of Hashem tamid. Tamid after Shabbos, tamid after tumah. And so why would God make a miracle for no reason? Tumah is hutra b'tzibor, and you don't need the miracle. You do a delay of it, especially the man the tumah hutra b'tzibor, the vade, you don't need the nes at all. You don't even have to be mahadar. Skip the brackets. V'oid yesh l'tamaya. You could ask more. Fine. So the oil lasted 8 days. But you could ask, Adayin ma'as b'chaviti kohen gadol. What did they do with the minchas chavit and the kohen gadol? She'et tzarach lahakrev b'chol yom tamid machtzisa ba'boiker machtzisa ba'erev v'hisa tzricha gimel lugin shemen b'chol yom k'de'isa b'menachos daf nun aleph v'kivan shenitmeu kol hashmanim. If all the oil was tamei lo hayachom lahakrev chaviti kohen gadol, and he says it's doichek to say they only didn't have shemen zayazach, but shemen, which is good for menachos, they had. That's a doichek, because if they touched it, then we have to suspect they touched everything. So he says a very amazing teretz. It's all one answer. Based on the Rambam that says there's a mitzvah to light the menorah in the morning. It says the cheshek shomer v'nira the hadlakish al boiker is not doichet tama, because it doesn't say tamid. And if it didn't go out, you weren't required to extinguish it and to light it. And therefore it's Eino Kavuz Man. And the proof is, in the beginning, the Rambam says that Hatavas HaNeres Bein HaRabayim is a mitzvah saseh. And he says Halakas HaMenorah Derech Shabbos and Tumah. But Hatavas HaNeres is not Doicha. So that implies that only Hadlaka Bein HaRabayim is Doicha. So according to this, and when we say they only had enough oil for one day, they only had for one night, but not for the morning. And so it was a miracle on the first day. The Iker Nes was only needed for the continual lighting of the first day, which is not Doicha Tumah. But the Minchas Chavitin, they could have used Tameh. Now it's unclear what they did at night. Did they use Tahar oil at night? Why would they have done that? Or maybe they used Tumah oil at night. L'char, you have to say they used the Tahar. Okay, so Rabbi say all of this is according to the Shita of the Rambam, that not only is there a mitzvah to light the menorah during the nighttime, there's a mitzvah to light the menorah during the day as well. Okay, we'll pick it up over here after the break. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.